And we are live. Hi, my name is Tyriece and
Elijah Jones.
this is MMA Renegade Podcast, Episode 3. Elijah, we have so much to cover, but first, how are you doing, sir?
I am doing well. The semester is almost over, Tyrese. You have
Oh, yeah.
no idea how good that feels. I've literally maybe slightly over a month and maybe a week left. I'm sorry, get some good lighting in here. Maybe if I turn this way. Oh, that's
Good.
look at that. Look at that lighting. All right. Yeah, if I turn this way, this is fine. Yeah, semester's almost over. It's a Sunday. Outside's looking nice, so I may go out for a bike ride later. Who knows? No complaints on this side of town. How are you, bud?
I'm doing good. I'm enjoying this coffee because fights went on way too long yesterday.
I fell asleep. That's how bad it was.
You're lucky that you don't have to watch it. It is nice outside, like you said, in New York, which is, last week we talked about how much it was raining outside, so it's a big difference. And yeah, man, I'm doing good. We're finally here, pay-per-view week, the big one, and we're gonna talk about that in a second. But yeah, I'm doing good.
Good. Glad to hear. So, go ahead.
So, also, I want to say as well,
you can just see the pain in his face.
To put a disclaimer on this episode, I didn't watch UFC yesterday.
Yeah,
I'll go into why I didn't watch UFC yesterday. So I don't. Only thing I know of is that Robert Whittaker beat Kelvin Gastelum. Mm-hmm. Elijah, on the other hand, had the fortunate of being able to watch UFC yesterday.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let Elijah lead on this one. I'm going to ask you questions regarding the event yesterday. I'm going to give you actual rating for it.
Yeah.
But so how did yesterday go about?
So let's go ahead and give the fans a background, of what actually went down. UFC again had another fight night in the Apex Arena, the Las Vegas, Nevada UFC Apex Arena. Of course, we know we have a smaller cage, we have a smaller venue, not a lot of fans there, barely anyone there last night. But last night, our main event was Robert the Reaper Whittaker versus Kelvin Gastelum. And we know this fight was a fight that was supposed to take place in 2018, right? That was when Kelvin Gastelum was on a tear through the middleweight division, beating guys like Michael Bisping, Vitor Belfort, coming off of amazing victories on those fights. Do we have a
You have a little kid there. He wants to stop in. Say hi. Say hi.
He's a little shy.
I was saying, Elijah.
He's doing his thing. We have another co-host today. That's great. But yes, Kelvin Gastelum coming off amazing, phenomenal victories in the middleweight division, kind of seeing some older people out, beating some newer people, finally gets the due diligence and earns a title shot against a guy who has beaten the top within, some of the best in the top 15, like Derek Brunson, Jacare Souza, and that man is Robert Whittaker. So when Robert Whittaker captured that belt, he was slated to fight Kelvin Gastelum, but unfortunately, Robert Whittaker had to pull out of that fight, and it was due to, I believe, a hernia in the abdominal wall. Fast forward 2 years later, here we are 3 years later now, the fight finally takes place. And that's what we saw last night. We've always wondered, this is one of the fights that we always wondered, damn, when we had Kelvin Gastelum at the height of his hype, and we had Robert Whittaker just making his legacy as the best middleweight of all time. Now, last night proved that although Kelvin Gastelum is tough and he's got the heart, determination, skill, Robert he's up. He's still up. This guy is a 30-year-old MMA artist who's one of the best middleweights to date. I mean, from rounds 1 to round 5, there was never a point where you were like, Robert Whittaker isn't winning this fight, right? What we knew, what we mean you had talked about before this fight was that the person who's going to win is the person who's quicker to land, right? These guys definitely have hands. We know that much. They have hands. They're quick. They have great technique. They come from great camps. They have very different styles, right? Kelvin stands in the southpaw. Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. Bless you, bud. My
just blew his nose all on my face.
For some reason, my charger is not working. Hold on. And I may. Oh, there we go. Perfect. All right, it's working now. So what we know is that Kelvin Gastelum presents a lot of issues for many of the middleweights because he stands in a southpaw position and he's able to land the jab with a phenomenal left cross, and he's able to get in close. And if he needs to mix up and clinch, he can, right? But Robert Whittaker last night, the speed, the footwork, the jab, the wrestling. I mean, this fight was only on 1 month's notice, which for some people can be enough time. With high level guys, you tend to want longer camps. But Robert Whitaker made great adjustments in this fight, and we now have an answer to what we would have, to what we didn't get in 2018. As you know, and many fans will know after last night, that Robert Whitaker won by 50-45 for 5 rounds unanimous decision. One of the more impressive things that Robert Whitaker was able to do was, remember we always talk about that combination where it's the jab, fake the cross, and come up with the head kick? The combination was seen very, very early in the first round. And we know Robert Whitaker loves to stick the jab and cross, cross head kick. And it was, I mean, he was able to stun Kelvin in the first round. And it was like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, Rob was able to land it that early. And one of the more impressive things is that Rob was able to get these takedowns, not in, shooting in, right? He shot in maybe one time, or he pulled in for a leg one time, head on the outside, and kind of just rotated until he got the takedown. But the earlier takedowns between rounds 1 and round 4 were pretty interesting. He would duck almost under Kelvin Gastelum's jab in the southpaw position, come up under, get double unders, and spin and come for a sweep. And he landed it almost every time he attempted that move, he landed it, which was the more interesting part, because you don't see Robert Whitaker, although he's not, you would look at him and compare him to other middleweights, and he tends to look smaller. But in this fight where he was able to do that, it was just interesting to see that he was able to not only mix in his striking, but to really effectively use that grappling that he doesn't get to use. We saw this in the Darren Till fight, which was one of the other things we talked about in past episodes, is that Robert Whitaker was able to mix wrestling in to get the decision. So I was impressed last night by Robert Whitaker and Kelvin Gastelum too. I mean, Kelvin Gastelum looked physically great. He looked better than he has in his last few fights, but it just wasn't enough to beat Robert Whitaker. The rhythm, the timing, the footwork, the jab, and it's interesting. Kelvin was loading up for these big shots and would catch him here and there, but for Robert Whitaker's sound technical defense was it. He was on last night. Robert Whitaker was on last night, and it was shown.
So let me ask you this. You said Kelvin Gastelum looked good in good shape yesterday. So
great shape.
To you, did it feel like Kelvin Gastelum could still hang around at middleweight, or did it feel like, okay, he can win fights at middleweight, but he's more suited at welterweight if he can make the weight cut?
I think if he goes down to, I'll say this way. Let's go back. In welterweight, he did pretty well against guys like Rory. I think he fought Rory McDonald at one point, and he also fought Tyron Woodley. Kelvin did great against those guys, but the welterweights of now tend to be a little bit bigger, but still make the weight. So I wonder how he'd fare against them. But at middleweight, he's giving up size advantage regardless of whatever division he's in. That's a known fact, right? At 5'9", he's giving up that size advantage regardless. Kelvin's hands were shown last night to still work. I mean, this guy took shots, but he gave Robert Whitaker in the third round, which was arguably his best round. The beginning, I want to say the opening 2 minutes, he was piecing up Robert, and I was like, oh, like, all right, now we're seeing Kelvin Gastelum get back to that kind of, like, he wasn't just trying to load up. He would come in, and the issue was that Rob is an in and out kind of fighter. He is an interesting, it's not karate like, but it's karate based, right? And he's in and out. He's popping a jab, popping across, pop the jab, feint, and then get the high head kick up there. What would happen is Kelvin closes the distance, and Rob is just too quick. That was the issue. Rob was too quick, so he could slide out, pop him with a jab, slide out, pop him with a straight. He was starting, one hit points off of that, but I think Kelvin Gastelum can still hang. I think there's a lot of guys in the upper echelon of the middleweight division that won't be able to do the things that Robert Whitaker was able to do to Kelvin Gastelum. I'm going to go ahead and give you a breakdown of the top 1 through, I'll give you 8 spots, right? Robert Whitaker is obviously the number 1. Paulo Costa is number 2. Martin Vettori is number 3. Jared Cannonier is number 4. Derek Brunson is number 5. Darren Till's number 6. Jack Hermanson is number 7. Kelvin Gastelum number 8. Kelvin Gastelum has already fought Jack Hermanson, Darren Till, and hasn't fought guys like Jared Cannonier, Derek Brunson. Not going to fight Vettori because they're in the same camp, and Costa's out, right? I still believe in my heart of hearts that Kelvin Gastelum can beat a lot of those guys on any given day. I think it's hard to train for a guy like Rob, right? Because Rob, the experience that Rob has is uncanny to none, right? I mean, fighting Yoel Romero twice. What man do you know to this day has lived to tell that tale, Tyreece? No,
yeah, you're right. You're right.
You don't fight a guy like that twice and come out the way Rob is looking. I'm sorry.
So also to the viewer watching, we thank you for watching. Please like and share. I'm looking at Kevin Gastelum's record when we talk about Kevin Gastelum, whether he can stay at welterweight, a middleweight. And I'm looking at his record. So let me just read it to you. So in the middleweight division, he has wins over, I believe, Vitor Belfort.
Yep,
Vitor
on the way out.
No, it's no contest actually, because I think it was
overturned.
He popped for something, right?
He popped for. Oh, I think Kelvin Gastelum may have popped for weed.
Yeah. I think Kelvin Gastelum popped for weed. He lost to Chris Weidman. He beat Michael Bisping. He beat Jacare Souza. But since then, he's lost to Edgar Adesanya, Darren Till, Jack Hermanson, Wild Whitaker. He has a win over Ian Heinisch, but we know what Ian Heinisch is. Hopefully that could change, but we see a pattern so far. And so, yes, he is a good at middleweight. Like, he has the power still there, the speed still there. He is going to be a sideline advantage. Yeah, but it's just like when you look at the people that he's faced, and he's not really had a lot of success. He fought Michael Bisping on his way out after getting, probably should be fighting.
Well, he fought Bisping right after he got choked out by Georges St-Pierre, right?
Yes, choked and rocked by Georges St-Pierre.
Yeah. He fought Vitor, and Vitor was on his way out at that time.
Jacare Souza, it was a split decision win. It's still a win, but still a split decision. And I remember that fight being what it was.
That was a tough fight. That was a tough fight for both of them. Because Kelvin's hands again. Kelvin being the smaller fighter, he has some of the quickest hands in that division. That's the issue, right? But when you fight someone who also has quicker hands and there's a size advantage to a degree and has good wrestling, defense, and good offense, it's kind of hard to beat people like that.
Yeah, I just don't know, man. I honestly think, we look at his yes, he is an impressive middleweight and he is a ranked fighter in the middleweight division. Yeah. But man, he's just like, you just look at his records and who he's lost to. It's just like, maybe it is something to think about to go to welterweight.
I wouldn't be upset. I think apparently he has a new nutritionist, and I believe it's the nutritionist, or it was someone he's working with now. I think that's his girlfriend, and he was saying that person is a person that he's been with, and like he's getting his weight cut and things like that under a management. Oh, Flathead Politics says, "What's up, fellas? I wasn't able to watch the main event last night." Yeah, it's okay, man. It was. I think you weren't.
You didn't miss much.
I don't want to say no. You definitely missed a lot, but you could go back and watch it and you'll be fine. Like, you're not overall grand scheme of things. This is not determinant of like, wow, like Robert Whitaker's getting a title shot. He's not. Like, not right now. And that's the thing. What was proven in this 5-round war was that Robert you look at the guy like, he lost to Israel. He arguably had 2 10-8 rounds in the Yo Romero fight, right? Against him, right? He was on the receiving end of the 10-8 rounds. Sorry, he was on the opposite side of the 10-8 rounds, so he was obviously had 8. You look at a guy like that, you're like, damn, like, does he, how does he come back from this? And you look at a guy like Kelvin, it's like Kelvin was this close to beating Izzy, 2 for 2, lost that 1 round, and he hasn't been back since. It's very interesting to see last night how the fight played out. But in the end, Robert Whitaker got the decision because he proved to be the better man. He's someone who found true contention at the proper weight, right? That's one of the people when you talk about careers. Maybe Jorge Masvidal, a few other guys like that. Like, these were, Jorge was started at lightweight, goes to welterweight, has success. Same with Robert Whitaker. Starts off on Ultimate Fighter, smashes from, it was Australia versus Britain or whatever. And next thing you know, he was at welterweight, gets knocked out by Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and someone else, goes up to middleweight, has this immense success, right? Robert Whitaker has found a staple for middleweight, and it's looking good for him. I like the way things are heading for him in his career. He's finally he's talked about as one of the best, but like last night proved why he's one of the best.
Now, you say this, but so you're saying he's not number 1 contender?
No, and I'm going to tell you why. The reason why he's not number 1 contender, although on paper he is, right? On paper he is. But when you look at a guy like Martin Vettori, who's been beating people and hasn't got his chance, I think a number 1 contender fight between those two would be the best option, right? The fight between Costa and Robert Whitaker, depending on who got finished, who had an excellent performance, could have gotten the next title shot. But we're now at a time for the middleweight. We don't have a timetable for Izzy's return, right? So why not book the next best thing? We have the top 1 guy versus the top number 3 guy because the number 2 guy is out. So might as well throw these 2 guys in to see who's the number 1, the number 1 Number one contender. Robert is the number one contender right now on the rankings, but he was supposed to fight Costa. Costa drops out, picks up Kelvin Gastelum, who is ranked number 8.
Yeah.
If Kelvin Gastelum had won, he could make the argument that he deserves it, right? But because Rob is fighting someone who's a little bit lower on the totem pole. He did great. He proved that he has the talent and the reason why. But I can see UFC being, hey, this is the number one contender fight between you and Martin Vettori, which obviously segues into what's next.
Yeah, I just like honestly for me, we pretty much have the UFC calendar fixed already. We know Amanda Nunes is fighting in August, Connor's fighting in July, which we're going to talk about later on. September we have
Jan versus
Glover. So we have October maybe to figure out what Israel Adesanya does. So I think that's enough time for that fight to come together. But it's also enough time a gap between now and October to where
6 months.
We may have a number one contender fight between Marvin Vettori and Rob Whittaker if that's the case.
Yeah, I think that's most likely what's gonna happen. I know Rob last night was talking about it in the post fight. He's like, yeah, like I see there's no other fight left but the number one. And it's like
unless Darren Till is able to come back in time. I think he's got a collarbone injury, so that may be a little bit difficult. But if Darren Till, he may be one that Marvin Vettori may get the fight before he fights for number one contender shot.
It's possible. It's truly possible, depending on the timetable of how long it heals. I think broken collarbone, I think, is the number one broken bone, easiest broken bone in your body. So realistically, I think he can come back within a good amount of time. But realistically, we have 6 months, right? Let's say they both get a 1 month fight camp starting mid-May. Let's say timetable for healing is mid-May. That would bring them to June, July, and then there's still enough time to have to book either a fight against Robert Whittaker or have one more fight in September. But then realistically, they would have to push that October fight to November. So fights like that could happen. You're right, but I don't know if UFC is going to wait for Till. That's the other thing. Yeah, Till's a big name. Everything's good, but you just don't know the timetable when he's coming back. I don't. UFC's not. They're not in the process of waiting for people right now. That I will say.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's so much this, and then we got to talk about the other fights. They got featherweight title that still hasn't been defended yet.
The fight,
the bantamweight title. We'll see what happens with that. So there's a bunch of things that has to happen. So we don't know. Maybe October is the fight that we'll see Rob Whittaker fight Adesanya, or maybe we get a number contender shot between those times, and we may have it pushed back to November or December.
It's possible. It's possible. I'll close out the way with this. The fight card last night was pretty great. I would say there was definitely a lot more decisions, but there was a lot more statements made, and I'll have some notable shout-outs. Jared Mearshart, GM3, he was able to get a submission victory over Bartosz Fabinski, which was good on his part, only because after a devastating knockout to Hamza Kamayev, you kind of need to rebound in the best possible way. So that was pretty great. You had Jessica Penne coming off of a 4-year layoff to win against Lupita Godinez, which was a great fight. You had Luis Pena and Tracy Cortez, people who also came off a split decision. So last night, the fights were great. I think there was very great matchups. A lot of people made statements in terms of who they are and their up-and-coming career. I will give last night, because of Robert Whittaker, and I'm a fan of Bobby Knuckles, I'm going to give the card a B-.
Okay.
And that's being generous. That's being generous.
And if you weren't generous, what would it be?
C+.
Okay.
If it wasn't generous, C+. I think Robert Whittaker, you know me, I was a Whittaker fan when he fought Clint Hester at middleweight. I was like, this is the guy. This is the guy who's going to come up and beat a lot of people. And it really just reiterated what I knew. Okay. It reiterated for me, at least as a fan. But it was a good card. Definitely worth watching. Great matchups. I think you should check it out and then get back to me and tell me what you think. We'll talk on the side, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a great segue to this abomination. So you watched UFC yesterday.
I did.
I decided to go lower than that and watch the Triller Jake Paul versus Ben Askren Fight Club. Now, to preface this, something that was interesting that I think somebody brought up, Shayna Baszler. If you know who Shayna Baszler is,
yeah.
If you remember who she is, former woman bantamweight fighter, now pro wrestler. She brought the point that Ben Askren versus Jake Paul was more talked about than the UFC card yesterday.
Yes, it was.
So
yes,
a lot of eyes were on this fight night. It was on this Triller show.
Yep.
For obvious reasons, you had celebrities there. You had the MMA versus a and now you got to call him a pro boxer / YouTuber and Jake Paul. And who was going to win? Was Ben Askren, who had never been known as a striker in his whole entire career, going to knock out or defeat a Jake Paul who's 2-0 in boxing, but hasn't really fought any boxers, unknown competitors.
Only celebrities or YouTube stars.
Right. We also had Frank Mir on the card, which I didn't know about, which was interesting.
Yeah, he was supposed to fight Antonio Tarver, but then Tarver had to pull out, so that other guy stepped in.
Right. So there's a bunch of intrigue. You got celebrities. You have the Oscar De La Hoya announcements that's on there. You had
performances too, right? Didn't people perform?
Performances, yeah. You like Sweetie, right?
Yeah, I like Sweetie. Sweetie.
You like Justin Bieber, right?
He's pretty all right. I feel like he's changed his life for the better recently.
Hey, you love Snoop Dogg, right?
Throw Snoop Dogg in, you get a lot of white people there.
You know what? You have a lot of. You know what? If you like Snoop Dogg, you like Pete Davidson, you like Doja Cat, you have a whole bunch of that in the show. And also you had a real boxing fight. You had what's his name here? Regis Progress versus Ivan Redhack.
Who won?
We'll get into that. So like there were a bunch of like different varieties in the show to make it entertaining, right?
Yeah.
And we've seen the Mike Tyson and Roy Jones, and I talked about how great that was.
Yeah.
And this was, and I put no hyperbole in this, this was the worst pay-per-view I have ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, I heard my friend said that. He said it was horrible.
No, Elijah. Words can't do justice as to how bad this pay-per-view was. This was a walking abomination of a pay-per-view. I'm watching it. I'm watching with my brother. He wants to see Jake Paul and Logan Paul. Shout out to Kyrie. He wanted to see this card because he loves Jake Paul and he loves celebrities and shit like that. And mind you, he's 16 years old. He was drained by the 2-hour mark of the pay-per-view. And by that time, we've only seen one fight. That's right, Elijah. So it was more Coachella.
One fight?
It was more Coachella than an actual like boxing event. Elijah, I shit you not. They're like the pay-per-view starts off, right? With, and I kid you not, the pay-per-view starts off with Snoop Dogg, Pete Davidson, and Diplo. That's Diplo. It starts with them trying to buy time to set up the show and to set up because they have to set up time for the artists to get their stuff ready, get their the instruments, whatever. So they're trying to buy time on camera. And Snoop Dogg takes the back. It started off with Jaleel White, Steve Urkel, and Snoop Dogg doing a promo, a vignette talking about Triller. In which Urkel showed his
cannabis. I saw that.
The promotion on this thing was unreal. Just blatantly just segueing to his own products on the show. And then we get to Diplo, Pete Davidson, and Pete Davidson is joking with Snoop Dogg and Diplo about how he's about the event and how. I don't know how it gets to this point, but how he would love for Snoop Dogg and Diplo to basically bang his mom. And then we get to
it's a bit much. No,
Elijah, let me bring it back for you. Pete Davidson on the call trying to buy time for these artists says it would be great if and I'm paraphrasing here, but basically along the lines of, hey, Snoop Dogg and Diplo, it'd be great to you bang my mom. And then we get to the Black Keys. Who I like the Black Keys. You heard that song.
Black Keys is great.
Right, they're great. They're good. They're a good stadium act.
They're solid. They're solid. I'd pay to see them. I'd pay to see them.
Right. I watched them too. I enjoy them. 15 minutes of the pay-per-view went to the Black Keys.
Mm-hmm.
We then go to our first fight. The first fight was a Joe Fournier versus Ray Khan. Ray Khan. He's a reggaeton artist based out, I believe, I think he lives in Florida. He's Colombian. I'm not mistaken. Both of them are Colombian, I believe. No, Joe Fournier is from the UK. Ray Khan is from Colombia. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Ray Khan, and this is important to say, Ray Khan is a 0-0, never fought in his life. You can tell by watching it. Joe Fournier is an 8-0 boxer. Joe Fournier looked worse than Ray Khan. Why? Because Joe Fournier is 8-0, 8 knockouts, right? Joe Fournier did better than most of his opponents. Joe Fournier took his shots, got knocked down, got right back up. Impressive. But for a person like Joe Fournier, you a pro boxer. How the hell did this go 2 rounds? And it's important to note the referee let the fight go on.
Question: Wait, how many rounds? How many rounds was that fight?
I believe it was 6.
It's an exhibition.
Yes, it was a 6-round fight. And then the referee, which is important to note because we're going to talk about the main event soon in a second. The referee let the fight go on, even though the guy is 0-0 and never fought boxing in his life, is clearly getting beaten up. Clearly is not able to throw a punch in this and against a pro boxer, and is trying to run around trying not to get hit. That is the scene of the first fight on the card. So we already got a dud. We already got a dud on the first fight.
So bad. And
then to make matters worse, the commentators could not give an ounce of a fuck during this pay-per-view. They had, so while they're fighting, Pete Davidson is coming up on the call, coming up to the broadcast booth, and the camera turns from the fight itself to Pete Davidson, and we're taking a shot of Pete Davidson for like at least 2 minutes of the last of the round, of the first round.
Is bad.
He's taking so bad. The cameras was on Pete Davidson taking selfies with, I think, Mario Lopez. And then we got more performers. We got Sweetie. We have Sweetie next. We've had Snoop Dogg and Ice Cube and E40 and Too Short.
They performed? I didn't think they were performing.
They performed. They're a new group called Mount Westmore. Again, product placement. Debuting a new group on a streaming app. I have no problem with that. However, where's the fuck is the fights at? I'm literally watching back-to-back performances of, and mind you, some of the mic is off. There's production issues. There's little things like that. You can audibly hear, because there's no crowd. It's not much of a crowd there. You could hear the artist talking during the set. So like you hear Sweetie after she's lip syncing the whole entire set, she's like, "Ooh, I'm tired." Like you have those little moments. It's just like issues. Justin Bieber had a moment as well. Like this. Mind you, we are at 2 hours of the pay-per-view. Only one fight has happened, which is a reggaeton fighter versus an 8-0 boxer, in which the 8-0 boxer could not finish the reggaeton fighter.
That's not good, dude.
We have a slap fight during the call, which I called you. I said, "Elijah, you will not believe what's happening." They are having a slap fight during the card with Ric Flair. And at this point, I think everybody.
Ric Flair? Wait, Ric Flair was there too?
Ric Flair, the Nature Boy. Woo, he was there too.
What is going on, yo? What?
And the slap fight is not even in the arena, not even in the boxing room or whatever. It's backstage in the docks of the arena.
What was slap boxing?
I don't know. I didn't care. I wanted to watch boxing.
Yeah.
I wanted to watch the main event. I wanted to watch Regis Progress versus whatever the fuck his name is. We'll get into that too. I didn't get any of that. I watched Ric Flair commentate 2 guys slap fighting each other in the back.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
You know what? And you know what? The Bryce part. Those are some Bryce moments. Frank Mir. Frank Mir surprised me. Frank Mir was 276, I believe. So it's the most he's ever weighed in his entire
Pretty heavy.
career.
It's pretty heavy.
And he was boxing. And you know what? He looked decent. He didn't get knocked out. He wasn't overwhelmed too much. The guy he was boxing against, I don't know if this is a good spot for him because he didn't look like, you know what? I mean, against a boxer a MMA fighter turned now pro boxer, Frank Mir, I would think you want to take him out. You really couldn't do much with it because he didn't have it in him.
Well, I believe the guy stepped up last minute, so there's also that. There's
also that, but he was also blasting Frank Mir, and he was taunting too and stuff like that. Had his hands down, and I thought in that moment, again, I don't know, but maybe take it to him. That's a big name beating Frank Mir. Who knows? But that fight was what it was actually an entertaining fight for both parties. So good on them. Yeah. More performances. Doja Cat comes back out. We got Doja Cat performing again. And at this time, which I forgot to mention, we've had Oscar De La Hoya come out during the Frank Mir fight, either taking all the drugs, like snorting all the line, like
a little sugar. What is it? A little sugar bugger?
Maybe because he was like he was out of control, and that's the thing about this Triller thing was that there seemed to be no control at all, no control at all. Like the commentators are like, I've never heard as much cursing on a pay-per-view in my life. They're saying fuck, shit, bullshit. Like they're saying all this on pay-per-view, which again, pay-per-view it's different, but there's has to be some level of the professional. Al Bernstein, legendary Al Bernstein, is commentating this show, and you can tell the check didn't clear yet because he
didn't give a fuck.
He didn't give a fuck. He had to stay there against his will to get through this card.
And it's just so bad that you're like, honestly, now I don't care.
They're smoking weed on camera. Pete Davidson in the main event is rolling a blunt during the pay-per-view on camera and smoking it into Al Bernstein's face. I cannot make this up.
Too much.
Oscar De La Hoya, he's supposed to be fighting this summer.
Apparently.
It was supposed to be against Anthony Pettis. He backed out of that apparently by his manager, Makikawa, which everybody knows Makikawa is the manager of John Jones. And Jorge Masvidal. But Oscar De La Hoya doesn't look good either. Like he
look overweight, like out of shape?
It's hard in the face, yes. But
he's older too.
Yeah, that's that too. But man, he looked intoxicated. Man, he looked bad. He's slurring his words. He's obviously under the influence of something. Like he's can't say the names. He's yelling. He said "baby" at least 30 times in that broadcast. Like it's if I make I go baby. Like what's his name? Steve Cunningham. He has to go. He has to go, baby. But he's constantly just talking and rambling and just has no coherency at all, which it looked very, very bad. And he should probably take himself to rehab.
Yeah,
I'm not bullshitting. Like it was that bad.
That bad. And please bring us to the main event. What happened?
And then before we get to the main event, because again, this all comes together. The one thing I'll say about the show. It was a shit show from beginning to end. So you see there's consistency at least.
Consistency is key.
Consistency is key, right? So the only real boxing match on this card is the Outrageous Progress. Hope I'm saying this, man. I'm sorry if I'm not. Versus Ivan Redak. And that fight ends. Outrageous Progress. Again, he's so good. And I would love to see him. He's light welterweight, so it's interesting to see where he goes from here. Maybe Teofimo Lopez steps up or moves up and fights Regis Progress, because I think Lopez is a little bit bigger for the weight class he's in, and that'll be interesting to fight. But regardless of the facts, he looked good. Referee steps in and calls the fight off after Progress hits Ivan with a body shot, which is then made to look like a low blow. And you may have seen the videos by now where Maybe he's actually hurt, or maybe he's trying to sell the shit out of this. But he's on the ground holding his genitals, while it's clearly on camera showing a taking a body shot, and that's the end of the fight. Then the end of the fight is him being stretchered out for a quote unquote nut shot when it was a clear as day body shot. The referee called a nut shot.
I'm going to look this up.
I can't make again. This is a pro boxing. This is a pro boxing match. This is something that could have been on ESPN or DAZN or whatever. But here we are, and that's how it ended. So that it was a complete embarrassment. And to make matters worse, we get to the main event, which took. By the time the main event started, I heard that Robert Whittaker and Gastelum was on. Mind you, this fight, the Triller thing happened at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock. So we were on par with where you guys were at.
Yeah.
And we started an hour earlier.
Ridiculous.
So I can tell you how draining it is. We're talking about like 12:30 in the morning. And we get to the main event. Ben Askren comes out, and they've been disrespecting Ben Askren his whole entire card. They're making fun of his body weight, making fun that nobody knows who he is. Like there's a bunch of just digs and digs and digs and digs. And you're an MMA guy. You're hoping that Ben Askren comes in and shocks the world and takes out Jake Paul. Even though me and you talked behind the scenes, and I think we talked on camera that I don't see this fight going any other way but Jake Paul winning this one. And surprise, surprise, Jake Paul wins within a minute. I thought Jake Paul looked good. Jake Paul against guys that have no striking experience or boxing experience looks really good. He can box. There's things in there. Like he goes to the body. He takes his time.
Okay. I want this to be known. Everyone's like he's not a pro boxer. I don't think he's a pro boxer, but he has boxing experience. He trains with Shannon. Yeah, he trains. I don't know if Shannon Briggs is still even in his corner or whatnot, but he was training with Shannon Briggs, and Shannon the Cannon Briggs was a guy who was who was supposed to fight Vladimir, who fought one of the Klitschko brothers, right? So like we're talking about a guy who's training a man to like be a good fighter. That when you have tutelage like that, you can do it. You can do it. And he's athletic. He's about close to my age, maybe 25, 26. Physically, he has all the attributes. He's fighting a guy who was 5'9". I mean,
yes,
it just didn't. I don't know if he's ever going to fight an amateur fighter. I think he'll stick to celebrities because he's more likely to beat them. But if he gets a guy who's decent in striking, he could have a bad day.
I'm going to get to that in a second. I'm glad you brought that up. But yes, listen, you can't take anything away from Jake Paul. You can't take anything away from the shot he landed. Like he landed a beautiful shot. Beautiful overhand. He was overhand right, and he set it up. He went to the body early on. He looked really, really good, and you could tell he's actually putting in the hard work, and he's actually training. He's actually working hard. So don't take anything away from Jake Paul. Jake Paul. Yeah. As much as I want to talk about how abomination this pay-per-view was, because I think Snoop Dogg took way too many substances, and I believe that he looked at what the Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. thing was, which was a good spectacle, but he took that premise and then turned it on his head and just made it more. It took out all the stuff we loved out of that card and just gave it everything we hated. We hated the over performances, the unprofessionalism and stuff in certain areas. He just increased it up to where some of it, like it's supposed to be like it's a cool, just alternative. Most it was more of an embarrassment. A lot of places like it was an embarrassment for Oscar De La Hoya. It was an embarrassment for Snoop Dogg in particular. Like there's moments of just like, God, I get that we're supposed to have fun here, but at the same time, like, where's some type of just legitimacy or professionalism or just common decency? And it wasn't. It wasn't done, which is unfortunate because I think all these guys should be held as great business minds, but this wasn't the business plan. And Jake Paul lands the overhand right. Ben Askren really didn't have nothing to offer, really. Even though he landed a good shot of his own, just didn't have enough to it. And he got knocked out. But here's where people say it's rigged. Ben Askren gets knocked down by Jake Paul. Ben Askren gets right back up. He's stumbling, but he gets right back up. The referee asks him to move forward, and he calls the fight off. Now, I would not have a problem with the stoppage. However, I seen early on, because I have great memory, I saw a reggaeton artist get knocked down twice against an 8-0 boxer and still get up and still be allowed to continue. My only problem with the stoppage is, why didn't Ben Askren be allowed to continue going on?
Yeah. You think it's for the promotion of the fight?
I don't know what it is. The referee was god awful, and I hope I never see his ass again. Again, he called a low blow shot on he called a fight ending a low blow when it was actually a rib shot. It was a beautiful rib shot. He let a reggaeton artist continue after getting knocked down twice, who was against a guy that's way bigger than him.
That doesn't make any sense.
Has 8 knockouts, right? So when you go to the main event, it makes no goddamn sense why Ben Askren gets knocked down and is not allowed to continue.
Yeah.
But I neither here nor there. Jake Paul probably would have won anyway, regardless of the fact. Good for Jake Paul. Now what's next? I don't know if this trilogy continues, because I gotta be honest with you. I gotta be honest with you. Go ahead.
There's two brothers.
Yeah.
There's two brothers.
No, I get that. I get that part. There's Jake Paul, Logan Paul. I get that. You have the celebrity stuff like that. My issue and just putting everything full circle. So much money was spent on this show. I don't know how you see any return. I said you saw the Black Keys, you saw Justin Bieber, you saw Doja Cat, you saw Sweetie. You love Sweetie, right? I love Sweetie too. Snoop Dogg, Too Short, E40, Pete Davidson, Mario Lopez, all these celebrities there. Al Bernstein, you have all these celebrities doing cameo appearances, and Ric Flair costs money too. You have the production that you gotta do. You have the catering you gotta do. You have, you gotta pay the fighters. Which the fighters, hopefully they get some percentages out of all this budget. But it's just like all this money, and even if the pay-per-view does, let's say 500,000 buys, which I think was projected to do, that doesn't do a dent in what you spend.
No,
you spent so much money.
I want to know what the gate. I'd be interested in hearing if they released how much the gate was.
You only allowed 100 people in there.
Yeah, but then again, just because you're allowed 100 people in there, you're probably never going to make the total amount of as how much you could fill in a total house. But remember, tickets are also sold at not regular price, right? Which they're hiked up. Then there's the people who buy tickets to just resell. And there's the people who are also bidding for tickets. The companies. I don't know what's happening, but realistically, I can see that being a thing.
From what I understand, there wasn't no you couldn't buy tickets. It was you won tickets. You get what I'm saying? You won a contest, or you were submitted and you got entry. It wasn't like you actually paid to get in.
Tyriece, I'm sorry you wasted your time last night. I'm so sorry.
There's no real attendance there. It's pretty much just family and friends and people that were
celebrities.
Yeah,
it seems like this was celebrities.
So there really wasn't no gate. There the pay-per-view. I'm going to say it was pirated a hell of a lot.
I wouldn't. You could, Tyriece. But you know me.
But
you know me. I would never in my life.
I know how you get down. But there's just so much money spent, production, artists, there's no way this makes money. So my question is, I don't know how this continues. They're spending so much money, they're not getting anything back.
Let me say this. When there's a will, there's a way. I agree. It seems like the benefit, the cost benefit here is kind of, it doesn't play out right. It doesn't seem to make sense. It does make. I'm sure once how much they've made from the event will probably come back in a few things, but realistically, I don't know if this is a sustainable model, right? There has to be tweaks added to this. There has to be. Right. Maybe they go to a state where they're fully open, where they can have fan attendance, right? Or maybe they get some type of jurisdiction where things are lifted up and now they're allowed 50% capacity for these arenas, 40%. I see it changing in the future to help benefit them, but I agree with you. As of right now, I don't see how, with paying all those performers, with paying the stars that they needed, I don't see how they recouped all that.
and the production was shit. Like, granted, the set pieces that they had, I think they were good. They were okay. Like, but like just them directing and just like the small things like that. Like, Mike Bond, who's from MMA Junkie, he talked about how like, of a shit show it was. Mikey Kawa, who was there, he talked about how much of a shit show it was. Like, there's people that was there that spoke out during the broadcast. Like, this is out of control. There's no type of direction going on. So I don't know. I don't know how to continue. Hopefully they learn from this, because again, this is the worst pay-per-view I have seen in all time. Of all time. I've never seen anything as bad as this. For Jake Paul, just to wrap this up, I give this show a D. A D, and that's being generous. Or like
I'll give it. I'll give it a D plus, because you know what? Both him and Ben Askren got good paydays for this. Regardless of the production, they're not responsible for the.
I am glad you brought that up, Elijah, because Ben Askren probably made more in this fight than he ever did in his whole entire MMA run. Ben Askren allegedly may have made $500,000 in this fight. Mm-hmm. Jake Paul made $650,000, and that's not including pay-per-view points for both of these guys, right?
Yeah.
Robert Whittaker, I believe, made $250,000 for his fight against Kelvin Gastelum base pay, just not including performance of the night and anything like that. Just his show money was $250,000. Kelvin Gastelum made $150,000 last night. So two MMA fighters, decorated MMA fighters, both fought for titles, but one won the title, got paid less than Jake Paul and Ben Askren.
Yeah.
Let that sink into you.
Yeah.
And so I can see why MMA fighters and boxing fighters are going to now say, hey, I want to fight Jake Paul next, because hey, I can make money fighting Jake Paul, and that's where the money is at. Exactly.
That's where the money is at.
Which is sad. Which is fucking sad. It goes to show you what the state of MMA and boxing. Yes, Flathead. Yes. If you didn't get it by now, it was a complete shit show. A complete shit show. Something. It was an abomination. Something that should never be seen ever. Watch clips. Watch highlights if you can. Do not watch the whole entire show, because you will be upset.
We don't want Flathead upset.
Now, I will say this.
Yes.
I will say this. Somebody that me and you both love.
Yes.
That he is not doing anything in the UFC because they will not allow him to. I hope you know where I'm going with this. Who I think would be a good opponent for Jake Paul, who can box, who is older, but it levels out the handicap. Nick Diaz. Give Jake Paul Nick Diaz.
He wouldn't sign up for that fight.
Why wouldn't he?
He would lose that fight.
Who, Nick Diaz?
No, Paul. Paul loses that fight. You're talking about a guy who fought Andre Ward, regarded as one of the best middleweights ever, and he's one of the only few actual combat athletes who's been able to win at the Olympics. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Give Jake Paul Nick Diaz. That fight, I'll guarantee you, it does way more money than Ben Askren. Probably does way more money than Conor McGregor at this point, because we have not seen Nick Diaz fight in a long time. No. Nick Diaz has a stronger fan base than Nate Diaz. So we know that. We know it's going to be pay-per-view money. I think if Jake Paul is legitimate about wanting to show that he can box, by a older Nick Diaz who has not seen a lot of action, who isn't in shape, and has a strong following, that makes sense. And Nick Diaz fits perfectly in this model of just laid back. We're gonna smoke, we're gonna drink, we're gonna curse, we're gonna have a good time. Like, Nick Diaz fits that mold more than Ben Askren did.
For sure. That's true. That's fair.
That's the fight. That's the fight. Like, if we're talking about somebody that invented or made it popular to be able to smoke and drink and do all this stuff during a fight camp or behind the scenes during a fight camp, it's the Diaz brothers. Yeah. That fight makes sense. I would love to see Nick Diaz versus
imagine. Well, Nick Diaz apparently is getting into shape. So if Nick comes out of retirement and beats him up, it's a different day, brother. Different day. That's a good amount of money to ride off into the sunset with.
Yeah.
That's a good amount of money.
Nick
That's
Diaz
now that you sold you sold me. If you sold me.
Nick Diaz can't get a fight in the UFC. They won't allow him to fight. Let him
probably
go.
In the long run, they probably will give him somebody. But as of right now, if you want to get your money up, not your funny up, that's the fight.
They're not gonna have Nick Diaz fight in the UFC. They could have done so by now. They're not gonna do it. They don't have no intentions of doing it. So why not let him go box?
Yeah,
and go fight Jake Paul and make some money and put some respect back in the fucking name of MMA.
Mm-hmm. Fight sports in general, but yes.
Thank you. So
yes,
that is my wrap up. I give it a D. If I'm not being generous, I'll give it a fucking F. Let's move on to the UFC 261 prediction show.
Yes, sir.
Jorge Masvidal versus Kamaru Usman 2, which again I walked it back after watching the fight. I'm going to sit here and say, I'm sorry, Elijah. There are some proponents of this fight that could be interesting. I am going to apologize live. I don't do this, but I will say sorry. There is. He's gonna walk off. I'm actually saying I'm sorry. I'm apologizing here and saying, you know what? I can be wrong sometimes. Jorge Masvidal versus Kamaru Usman is interesting. Be right back. Okay? There is some interesting proponents. As you're hearing somebody say, "I'll be right back." Anyway,
hey, how you doing, buddy? Sorry, can I continue?
I do think there are some proponents of this Jorge Masvidal versus Kamaru Usman 2 fight, which can be entertaining. How entertaining it's going to be, I don't know. But I am more interested in this fight than I was before.
You had all the rights to be not interested in this fight. And I appreciate you coming on live and saying that. What I will say is we kind of understand that when Kamaru's able to beat you, there's really not much you can present in the next fight. Hardly ever do we ever see a rematch with a guy with like Kamaru, right? We never ever see Kamaru fight guys that he's already fought because up until now, the welterweight division has been so stacked. That's just it, right? Like it's so convoluted at the top when you have guys like Jorge Masvidal, Leon Edwards, Nate Diaz is always throwable in there. If you ever wanted to, you could have Conor. You could always throw Conor in there. They always want to have Conor as no, I'm not saying he will be, but you made the argument that Conor could fight Masvidal at 170 at one point. That's possible. There's just too many routes to go for welterweight, but when we look at the original fight, we notice that there's some things that both guys can kind of polish. There's some things that guys can look back and say, oh, that's where I know I can get him. That's where I can get him. And realistically, this is a great matchup. Does the fight now great stylistically wise and changes from the first fight and things we've noticed as as fans for the fighters? I'm sure there's things we can notice that could happen differently in the second fight. Will the outcome be different? And that's what I think that's where you were struggling with. Does the outcome totally change? Is there enough variabilities in a fight in this second fight that will happen and change the way the first fight went? And there's nothing that lets me know that it will, but there's some things that I am worried about for Kamaru. The things that I'm worried about for Masvidal have already taken place. He's already lost the fight the way I thought he would lose it, right?
Right.
But now it's kind of like, all right, let's give Masvidal some time. Let's see what he can do. Masvidal, when he loses, he comes back better in a way. So I don't know.
Yeah. See, the thing about this fight is I kind of wish they didn't fight each other before.
Yeah.
I kind of wish this was the first time because a lot of the tricks that Masvidal does, he did in the first fight. He did the stutter
the way he knocked out Naruto.
Yes, he did that before. He showed some of his brilliance before. So I don't know exactly what he can do in this fight. I'm sorry, I'm watching the little kid walk away with his cereal in his hand, which is
anywho.
He's going to make a mess. I just don't know exactly what Masvidal could do. And to be honest with you, Kamaru Usman has a little bit more tools in his game. Like he can wrestle, he did. He could grapple. He's also shown in a Gilbert Burns fight he can strike too, and he has a lot of power. He may not have the technical ability like Jorge Masvidal does, but he definitely has the power, which I think Jorge Masvidal may struggle against.
Jorge Masvidal's the reason why Jorge Masvidal has had success in the welterweight division, and I think you understand this, is that when you have a guy who's so used to being fluid, he's a little lanky, he's tall, at like maybe like 6'1", 6'2", at a lightweight frame, everyone's kind of quick down there, right? Jorge Masvidal's cutting down a lightweight. He bumps up 15 pounds. Fills out a little more. Still technically retains his frame, if you think about it, a little bit more muscle, but retains that frame against guys who tend to be a little bit more muscular, a little, anywhere between 5'9" to 6'1", just as himself. But these guys tend to be more muscular. But if they can't grab you, they can't impose their will. That's the biggest thing about this division, welterweight division. If a lot of those guys can't grab you, they can't impose a will. So all you have to do is beat them to the punch, and that's what Jorge Masvidal has been able to do. He's been able to beat a lot of his opponents at welterweight to the punch. Now, has he fought a lot of people at welterweight? The argument can be made, no, he hasn't.
No.
He hasn't fought the who's who of the division. He hasn't fought. He fought Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. That came up short, right? He fought Darren Till. He knocked him out. He's fought Ben Askren, knocked him out. Has he fought guys like Leon Edwards? No. Has he fought other guys like Damian? He's fought Damian Maia actually in the past. I believe that fight was I think it was a split decision. He did pretty well against him. But but bottom line is we know what he brings to the table, and I just don't know if there's enough. Now, can he polish those things? For sure. He can polish those skill sets that he has and kind of give Kamaru a better run for his money the second fight, but I don't know if that's more than enough to change how the fight's going to go.
No, I still think it's going to be more entertaining because I think they're both going to come in more prepared, more in shape. Kamaru Usman's going to be more willing to stand with Jorge Masvidal, and Masvidal's going to have, I think, his cardio is going to be a little bit better than what it was in the first fight. I just don't see how Kamaru Usman doesn't win this fight by knockout.
Yeah, I think this will. I think this will get dry. I think Jorge Masvidal has enough defense to last. I don't know if he gets finished, but I think he puts a beating on him. I think Kamaru really. Wait, you said you don't see. Wait, sorry, say that again. You said.
No, I'm asking you. How do you see this fight going?
Oh, I think Kamaru wins again.
Okay.
I think Kamaru wins again because the bread and butter, if Kamaru can't strike with you, is the wrestling. But I think Kamaru is going to be able to strike with him this time. And the thing is, Masvidal can take punishment, but can he take the power that Usman has for 5 rounds?
Right.
So far, no one's been able to do that. Colby's the only person, and even then, Colby got dropped in the 5th round a lot. Right. So, in the 4th round too, almost, I guess. But he's got rocked. So I wonder how quick Masvidal will be. But then again, if you wrestle him early and then finish him, hey man, I don't know. I see Kamaru winning by unanimous decision again. But you saying you see Masvidal winning, or
I see Usman winning by knockout.
By knockout?
Yeah, I just look at this fight and I think Masvidal has a little bit more. Again, he has more tools in his striking game. He's working with boxers. He's mixing things up. He has secrets. He has things we haven't might even seen yet that he can do. He has a great camp. For me, I don't know if it's standing between the two. Can Masvidal take the power of Usman? And I would say no. And I think Usman is still tuning up his game and still adding things in, like the keep kicks to the body, working the jab, which I think he'll have the
switch. The switch stance is something we've seen in his last 3 fights.
Right.
He's really implementing a switch stance kind of game, and that's dangerous because that means you have to develop power in both your lead hands in each stance.
And he also has the tool in his pocket that, hey, I can just grapple with you. I can grapple with you and make it an ugly fight.
That's it. It's like, hey, you know what? Fuck it. Now we're grappling. Like that switch to know that you can. It's hard to beat. It's hard to beat.
Right. So I think Masvidal's gonna have a hard time. I think I see a TKO happening in the later rounds.
Yeah.
I think now we're going to talk about. I don't know where Masvidal goes from here because Masvidal loses to Usman twice. I don't see him. I don't know if he sticks around to fight these other guys in the welterweight division. He may just pick and choose his fights from now on.
I bet you he goes to something like boxing where he earns the money.
Maybe. I just, man, it's interesting because Usman needs that next credible opponent. Maybe that's Leon and the winner of Nate Diaz, but I don't know if Usman gets his respect after this, because I think the talk is going to be, well, he's supposed to beat Jorge Masvidal. I think Usman has yet to break out as the UFC welterweight star that they need, and you know, Masvidal is good for the UFC in terms of star power, but you know, Usman is just gonna run through him, I think, honestly. And
we talk about this, and not to cut you off, but there's just some guys can't beat.
Yeah.
Not to take away their star power doesn't mean they're not the best, but there's some people you can't beat. For most of the light heavyweight division, that's John Jones.
Yes.
For what seems to be the better part of a year, maybe 2 years now, Kamaru Usman.
Right. Yeah. But one of them is a star. One of them is a star.
Yeah.
One of them has been the UFC has been trying to push and trying to make him a star, and has yet to cross over as a star. And
you don't become that star till you get the belt. Sorry.
Maybe a knockout performance of Jorge Masvidal gets it done. Yeah. But I like Kamaru Usman has yet to break that barrier, and it seems like Masvidal would have been the great pick to bring more viewership and more interest into welterweight division. Unfortunately, I think he gets destroyed by
Kamaru.
Which again, Leon Edwards and Nate Diaz. Maybe Nate Diaz fight against Usman brings in more money, but I just don't see another big fight in the welterweight division for a while.
No.
Against with the other, you know, not MMA guys like us, but outside people.
You mean like bringing in money? Money-wise, money-wise, a Masvidal versus Kamaru 2 is not gonna. I don't see a fight pulling and welterweight pulling that much. You're right.
Yes, right. But the segue into the co-main event, so we both have Usman winning. Rose Namajunas versus Weili Zhang. I think Weili Zhang wins this fight.
By stoppage.
I got decision. Mm-hmm. I think it's gonna be a one-sided decision, but I think a decision.
I'd say stoppage, and the reason why is because in the Andrade Namajunas fight too, in the third round, a lot of people don't realize Rose got rocked.
Yes,
Rose was rocked. And she was rocked because Andrade found a way to get on the inside because Rose was standing her ground, and Rose took some heavy shots. And don't get me wrong, Rose was winning that fight, right? That fight ended up being a split decision, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Now combine the power with precision and technique and wrestling. Wrap that all together. That's Weili Zhang.
Right.
That is one of the most dangerous fighters I've seen in the last 5 years. Technique, submissions, wrestling, you name it, she has all facets of the game. Now, don't get me wrong, Rose is slick. She has the technicality. She's beat Joanna in the second Joanna fight. Joanna actually, if a lot of people go back and watch that, Joanna picked it up in the championship rounds. It may not have been enough to win, but Joanna presented issues later in those rounds. So I'm thinking in a 5-round fight where Weili Zhang starts off great and consistently does great, you'd have to catch her almost in the way that Joanna was catching her when it comes to volume. But Rose is not a big volume striker.
Flathead Politics says he loves thuggish Rose, but Zhang is winning.
Zhang's got this.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Like and remember we talked about Weili. I'm sorry, Namajunas being the best strawweight, right? We used to talk about that all the time. Then we saw Weili Zhang. Then we was like even with
that always changes too. Like who was the best at the time? It always changes too. So
that is true. But when we saw Andrade knock out Rose, we were like, okay. We still were like, Rose is the best, but Andrade beat her fair and square.
Right.
Andrade got finished within the first minute of the first round.
Right. Right.
One of the scariest strawweights right now got finished. You kidding me?
Yeah.
No. My money's on Zhang by stoppage. I'm sorry. Weili Zhang is it.
Rose Namajunas has tools to make this fight interesting. Rose Namajunas is. I think this is the closest fight between the 3 main events. because I think that Rose has the technique to get the work done. I think her ability to stick and move, her ability to use her kicks. She also, if it goes to the ground, she can submit you. She can do things in this fight to make it interesting. I just don't know how Rose will react to the power, and I think this is the time to bring this up. I don't know how much Rose Namajunas' heart is in this fight. And the reason why I say this is because of all the stuff that she's been saying leading up to the fight, which to me, the communist talk that we talked about in the last episode, we go back and watch. Yeah. To me, how I took that is I think Rose Namajunas is trying to find some type of spark. Like talking about her. Yeah, I think that's because remember we talked about how, at one point she wanted to retire. Yeah. And, even after the Jessica Andrade fight, she wasn't really, she seemed unsure really what she was going to do. And so to me, I don't know if Rose has that spark in her. And I think she's trying to muster up some type of personal thing in it to get her going into this fight, which if that's your motivation, I don't know how good that is for you.
Yeah.
Because Weili Zhang is going to be Weili Zhang regardless.
Yeah. Weili Zhang comes to fight. That's it. That's the one thing she does. She comes to fight. No ifs, ands, or buts. So if you're looking at all the antics behind the scenes, you're looking at Rose's comments about retirement and stuff like that. If you're looking at just matchup wise, if you're making a bet, even though this is a close fight and this is a more even fight, I think Weili Zhang is the right person to put your money on. Yeah. Yeah. That's it. I think Weili Zhang she's that good. Rose couldn't survive. Oh, Flathead says Rose couldn't survive a battle like that last Zhang War. I think Rose is tough enough to last the first 2 to 3 rounds on heart, will, determination, skill set. But when it comes to those championship rounds, again, after that 3rd round, when we saw with Andrade, where Andrade was tagging her and hitting her, landing hooks, landing uppercuts, landing straight punches. With Weili, you can't make a mistake against Weili. You could probably make a mistake against Andrade, right? Because of the power. You can, if you're quick enough, you can probably escape it.
And the height, and
you can do that, right? But with a person like Weili, a mistake most likely costs you the fight as opposed to a round, and that's the thing.
And also the mentality. Like again, we talk about this mentality of just where she's at in her career. If we're making predictions, we don't know how they are, heading to this fight. I can't predict what Rose Namajunas' mentality is right now because of all the stuff that's happening, of all the talk she's had in the past. I don't know if she's taking this fight, but I don't know if her heart is fully into this fight. If that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. So, and then the final fight on the final main event is Jessica Andrade versus Valentina Shevchenko. I think this is the easiest fight to call. I think Valentina Shevchenko beats Jessica Andrade.
I think she finishes her.
I don't know if it's by finish or decision, but
I think she finishes her.
And that's also possible. Valentina Shevchenko has too many weapons in her toolbox to use to beat Jessica Andrade. She has the grappling. She has the power. She has the range and the distance she can control. Like there's so much that Valentina Shevchenko could do that I just see her winning. Now, the only thing I will say is Jessica Andrade could make it interesting if she is willing to get on the inside and work on the inside and make it a physical fight. That is something that we have yet to really see Valentina Shevchenko deal with in the last couple of fights. So that could make it interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I still got to add to that. I think want to add to that.
It's just I got Valentina, bro. I really do. Sometimes I don't want to be that guy, right? And I'm not saying not to toot our horn, but we've been watching MMA well over 5 years now. Yes. Right? Like this is the science to us, right?
Maybe even longer than that for me, honestly.
Bro, I mean, I want to say we started in 2013, really, right? Like that's when we really, because that was when the Ultimate Fighter with John Jones took place. John Jones and Chael Sonnen. At least that's for me. That's when I joined it.
Yeah, that's when I joined it. I've watched since the Brock Lesnar days, since Rashad Evans and Quentin Rampage Jackson. Like those.
I've never
2008, 2007.
Yeah, that time. Bottom line is, I mean, I just don't like you know when you know, and
Right.
I'd be really shocked. Like I'd be really shocked if Andrade knocks out. The only way I see Andrade winning, like, and it's possible, is knocking out Valentina Shevchenko. There's no other facet of the game where I see her beating her. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
she
this,
has to.
she has to knock her out because realistically, I think Valentina has the more refined, polished striking. I think Valentina could possibly be the stronger person, right? With
Yes.
the height and the technique, the throws. I mean, there's not a facet I see where I don't give the edge to Valentina, except for the power. The power is the only way, and she's also durable. So, I mean, bottom line is Valentina has that. If Andrade does win, and you bet your money on Andrade, you're going to be rich. I can tell you that much.
Now again, Jessica Andrade has these two, and credit to Jessica Andrade for taking this fight. I think this is a great fight from her to step up to go for the 125 belt against Valentina Shevchenko, which had been remotely unbeaten. Valentina Shevchenko has to move down to 125. It's a great test and courage for Jessica Andrade to take this. I just think Valentina Shevchenko was so good and is probably one of the best fighters on the world. That's not women's fighters on the world. That's not Amanda Nunes. So I just don't see Jessica Andrade getting the win here. So I think Valentina Shevchenko wins by unanimous decision.
Agreed.
So I got decision Shevchenko. I have decision Weili Zhang, and then I have TKO Usman.
Yeah, I agree with all those.
I can't wait. We will do a tape show for that one. Yes. And please let us know if in the comments if you want to see a tape show or a live show. For tape, we're gonna do B-roll footage and stuff like that. If it's live, then obviously that's all gonna have to wait. So definitely get your thoughts on that the comment section. But lastly, here, Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier is happening. It's happening in July. I was gonna go, but unfortunately, tickets sold out. So
yeah,
I found out what was happening.
Once they announced it for real, I was like, "Damn!" And it was sold out within like what 2 days?
Not even 2 days. Within that, I think maybe an hour.
Day, right?
Yeah. Like I didn't know tickets was going on sale until it was too late.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, but yeah, 20,000 tickets were sold, I believe. And now, so Flat Politics says live reaction show fellas. All right, well, I'll tell you what. If we get a couple more people that wants to do a live show, we'll do a live show. The thing about doing a live show is that we can't really there's stuff where we can't really the show won't be uploaded until days later. We won't be able to see it really. So we don't know how that's done. StreamYard, the program we use, it's a lot harder to manage when it goes live. If we can share it and stuff like that. So that's the reason why we don't do live as much as we try not to do live. But again, if we get more people saying that, hey, we want to do a live show on Sunday, we'll do a live show. So definitely Flathead Politics share. Anybody that subscribed to the show, we have I think 36 subscribers now. So thank you guys for subscribing.
Thank you so much.
Please let us know if you want to see a live show on Sunday. And yeah, Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier is interesting. I think I'm going to go Dustin Poirier again.
Yeah,
early predictions. And I wonder where Conor McGregor goes from here. I truly do.
Agreed. I think after this, there's not much you can do as Conor McGregor because you don't want to really return to being completely active because realistically, you can lose. The risk of winning and losing is a lot higher, right? You really only want to get the money, but then again, is UFC willing to pay you? They are, but that's not for forever. There's a lot of factors that he'd have to think about after this fight.
Yeah, I do. If you are a Conor McGregor fan, it is interesting that they're not buddy anymore. Seems like there's the whole donation. Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor.
Yeah, it appears that I believe Dustin Poirier spoke early before they got the money, something like that, and then Dustin Poirier retracted his statement about Conor. So apparently, I think they may be on okay terms. I don't know if they're buddy anymore.
Yeah, so I I wonder about that, but it should be a good fight. I wonder what other fights go on that card. And yeah, I think Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier is a lot more interesting the third time around.
Agreed.
How much would change, like the Kamaru Usman and Jorge Masvidal fight, remains to be seen.
Yeah.
I think you love the fact that his footwork seems to be less boxing oriented and more like he used to do, bouncing on his feet, using his movement. I think that's something you would like to see.
One of those things is that, right? I need the evolution of both their game that's the thing I'm most interested to see, right? Because where they started and where they are now aren't completely different, but it's seeing those little tweaks to fit the times of the division to me, that's the best part. It's really the best part.
Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting to see. I think the leg kicks are gonna be more available now with them in that stance. So I wonder how much of a difference that's gonna make. But it remains to be seen. So I'm ready. We got, again, this weekend we have Usman Masvidal. The following month we have Michael Chandler versus Charles Oliveira. Then we have the Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno. So we have a lot of good pay-per-views going the next couple of months. So I'm excited to see what happens.
Yep. Me too, bro.
Right. So I was going to say to you.
You said you said something. It looked like you were going to say, "Don't ever invest in Triller." I don't know.
Yes, I was going to say that, and I was going to say, guys, please let us know if you want to do a live show or a tape show. Tape show will add B-roll and stuff into that. Live show is going to be live, but if you're not watching it live, you probably won't see it until a day or two later. So that's what makes it kind of difficult as well. So please let us know, and so we could plan accordingly. And yeah, man. I'm again, UFC gave it a B+. Triller Fight Club it's a F, and hopefully this weekend's card we can give it an A.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
So anything else you want to add?
No. Bobby Knuckles did what he's supposed to do. Bobby Knuckles
and Triller do better. I hope Oscar De La Hoya is in rehab somewhere. All right, signing off. My name is Tyriece Simon.
Elijah Jones.
This has been MMA Renegade episode 3. Have a nice day, guys. See you next week.